this has transformed my life. It just felt like I was relearning all of this from such a different depth. Here's what I will say. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Brittany, and I'm gonna be telling you about what the heck has happened in the last year. If you've been following me on Instagram for a little bit, you know that I've been traveling, you know that I've been working, and you also know that I've been spending a lot of time with my family. So I wanna recap everything, tell you about what I've been dealing with in terms of health, talk about my faith a little bit, and talk about my travels and what the heck is next. First, I wanna give you a recap on why I even started traveling in the first place. So it's December 2024, and I am looking around my apartment, and I was caught in a limbo. I was not making a decision of whether I wanted to go or stay in the States. I found myself praying every single day, asking for clarity, asking for guidance, and I just kept getting this nudge like, Brittany, you're meant to go, you're meant to travel, you're meant to leave the States. So I ended up booking a one-way ticket. I started with selling all of my things in my apartment, putting everything that I wanted to keep into a storage unit in Southern California, and I brought 2 suitcases and a duffel bag with me on a plane, and I flew to Mexico. Sounds like I just did something crazy illegal. Not what happened. I ended up staying in Mexico for about 2 weeks just to kind of get my bearings in, and I already felt comfortable in Mexico, so I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good start for me. Once it hit about 3 weeks in Mexico, I was like ready for the next. I flew one way to Bali, where I stayed for about 2 months. During my time in Bali and in Mexico, I was just locking in on my business. I was taking care of all of my clients. I was working with my team to support me in taking care of my clients, and I was really focused on my physical health. I was going to the gym, I was eating clean, I was doing so much recovery work. My nervous system had never felt so regulated. I felt so incredible. Then my family ended up flying over to Southeast Asia, where I met them in Vietnam, Singapore, and my parents and I ended up back in Bali together, where I was able to spend some extra time with them. The time with them was so incredible. I was able to see family in Vietnam that I had never met before, and I was able to spend time with my uncles and aunts from the States who I hadn't talked to in a good 6 months. It'd been a while because my parents had moved to Texas out of California where everyone else was. I just hit a tree, sorry. I would say during that trip to Vietnam, I just felt so much closer to home and so much closer to my family, where I started to remember how important family is to me and also how important boundaries are for me. Knowing that you have family and you want to take care of them, spend more time with them, while also making sure that you stay on your routines and stay on track, both physically, mentally, and even with work. If you're someone who at an early age moved out of their family home in order to live alone, or whatever that looked like for you, you kind of understand this. You get into a really good rhythm when you're alone, and you start taking care of yourself more. You start having better routines, better habits. But then when you go back home, it's kind of challenging to start integrating all of that into an environment where you used to not take care of yourself, or you used to have poor boundaries with the people that you love, things like that. So I was navigating that in Vietnam, and it was a really great trial run for me before I realized it was gonna be a trial run. So after my 2 months in Bali, I realized how much I loved Vietnam. I loved the people, I loved the community, and I loved feeling so close to home. So I went back and I lived in Vietnam for a month and a half, where I did my 5-day fast, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I was still in a really great routine because I was solo traveling, and I was just meeting friends out there as well, which was amazing. From Vietnam, I actually flew back to Mexico, stayed in Mexico for a couple weeks, where I got acclimated to the right time zone because I was going back into the US in order to take a 4-day training. I've never done one of these trainings before. I had heard about neurolinguistics, and I was so interested because I wanted to learn more about hypnotherapy. I wanted to be able to work with my clients in hypnosis and support them in removing limiting beliefs, negative thought patterns, things like that, because I had heard about how incredible it was to work with hypnotherapists myself. Then, backstory, a year and a half prior to me going back into the States, I was actually working with a hypnotherapist. So since 2023, I had already been working with a hypnotherapist, and in my head, I was like, this has transformed my life. I want to take these tools and techniques and be able to work with my clients on this, because the amount of sovereignty I felt like I had gained from that, the amount of understanding and the feeling of being in touch with myself was on a new level than it had been 5 years ago. Of course, as time goes on, we grow older, all of the things, you're going to feel more in touch with yourself, but this was on a completely new level where my faith had deepened. Being able to be tapped into and tuned on to anything going on unconsciously, it all became conscious, and I became consciously aware of the things I wanted to bring into my life, the things I wanted to do more of, and ultimately what my purpose and passions were. So after my 2 weeks in Mexico, I flew into California where I started learning neurolinguistics. And this is a bit where my health started to run into some challenges. I noticed I was a lot more stressed out. I was experiencing a lot of deeply rooted spiritual, mental, and emotional shifts in my life, and it all trickled down into my physical body. So my physical health was starting to take a little bit of a turn. I was more inflamed. I was a little bit more tired in general, and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on because I had also just come off of a 5-day fast, 5-day water fast, which was absolutely incredible in the best way. And it was also a very stressful situation to put my body in, especially before something so deeply rooted. After taking my 4-day training, I flew to 2 different states to visit family, flew back to Mexico for about a week and a half, and then flew to Costa Rica where I stayed for 2 months. Side note, beautiful little town called Nosara changed my life radically. It was amazing. While I was in Costa Rica, I told myself I was going to lock in. I wanted to make sure that my health was in order. I wanted to make sure that I was on a solid routine again. I wanted my business to become better fundamentally. I wanted the experience my clients had coming in to be something they've never had before, something so transformational, something so helpful for them. And that's what I created while I was in Costa Rica for 2 months. During my time in Costa Rica, I felt so much stress and also so much peace at the same time. It was like the duality was so present while I was there, where I felt so stressed out with finances, with what was next, with questioning the things that I was doing constantly. And on the opposite end, I was also journaling every single day, meditating, doing yoga, exercising, to where I had so much peace and I had grown so close to God, and I felt so much more in touch with my faith again. Little backstory here, I grew up as a Christian, but I never actually knew what that meant, and I was so confused with what faith and spirituality looked like because my mom's family is all Buddhist because they are Chinese Vietnamese, and my dad's family, they're all Christian too. They never pressured me or put any sort of expectations on me for what my religion should be or what I should practice or anything of that nature. And so I, in a way, got to experience things on my own, and I also felt a little bit lost with faith and spirituality. I fell back into Christianity around my senior year of high school, where I was super devout Christian for about 1.5 to 2 years. Around that time, I was dealing with a lot of mental challenges, and I looked more into spirituality as a whole. I explored more holistic and natural remedies through that path, and then I came back to God and faith. So that has been my journey with religion, and it has been so beautiful because my faith has just absolutely been so much stronger. I just got chills, but just wanted to give you a little background on that. So being in Costa Rica, I was just praying every single day, asking God to guide me, asking God to show me, okay, what's next? What am I doing all this for? What am I meant to be pursuing? And I finally got a gut hit to push my master's in hypnosis training and master's in neurolinguistics, mental emotional release forward. So I shifted dates from 2 years out and I brought them forward to only a couple months later. So from Costa Rica, I flew straight into that training in San Diego. It was a very intensive 2-week training from literally 10 a.m. every single morning to about 7 or 8 p.m. every single night. And let me tell you, that training transformed my reality. I understood conscious thinking and the unconscious mind and how that ties into your spirituality at such a depth that I had never experienced before. During that 2-week training, I took a little break from focusing on my physical health because we were doing so much work on my energetic health and my mental health. Keep in mind, I still ate really, really healthy. I was still eating protein. I was still eating my nutrients, but I wasn't moving my body as much as I had in the past. And so I felt really, really stiff. I felt really puffy, and I was just, that SpongeBob meme comes up where he's like a caveman and he's looking around. That is how I felt the entire 2 weeks. And I was waiting for my physical body to catch up to my mental and emotional bodies. The way that I see it now is that we have our physical body, and then we have our emotional body, we have our mental body outside of that, and then we have our spiritual body outside of that. And so there are 4 layers, and if any of these 3 layers outside of your physical body are out of alignment, you feel it physically. So having had all of those shifts in those other bodies, my physical body was just overwhelmed. And I do know for a fact that part of the reason I felt more overwhelmed was because I wasn't taking care of my physical body and my physical health. I know that now. I didn't know that before. And I thought that I had understood that when I was in California the year prior. To be really, really honest, it just felt like I was relearning all of this from such a different depth. So fast forward, I finished the 2-week intensive training, and at that training, I ended up signing up for more trainings with this company because I wanted to continue to learn. I wanted to be taught by these doctors and learn from other clinicians and other people who have been in this field for so many years. I was able to see immediate transformation in my own life. I was able to overcome PTSD. I was able to release phobias and fears and trauma from myself that were deeply, deeply rooted. I was able to release a lot of negative emotions that I had held onto for so long. And I noticed within those 2 weeks, my relationship with my family suddenly got better. And I hadn't even spoken to my family. From that California training, I flew straight to Texas, where I stayed with my parents for 2 months to take care of them, support them, and really rekindle that relationship to a different depth that I had never had with them before. Those 2 months were so beautiful, and it also gave me time to rest and understand what was going on with my body. I started getting blood work done there. I was still focused on my business, of course, working with my clients and supporting them with all the things that they were experiencing and going through. And I was able to start eating healthier again and exercising regularly. What I didn't realize though while I was in Texas was that there was seriously something so off with my body, and I couldn't put a pin on what it was. I was in a caloric deficit and my body just didn't change. I was training regularly. My body didn't change. I was doing cardio. My body didn't change. If anything, I got more and more inflamed. So then I was like, okay, well, a caloric deficit isn't working even though I know I've been in a surplus for the last 3 months. So something is off hormonally. I got my blood work done, and long story short, after months and months of trying to figure this out, we realized that there were hormonal panels off in different parts of my cycle. So we were literally syncing to my cycle, getting blood work done based on what my cycle was looking like. And I was working with multiple doctors to figure out what exactly was the issue. It wasn't PCOS. We tested for Hashimoto's. There wasn't anything wrong there. We even tested my T levels across the board. So my thyroid, everything was normal. So I was so confused with what was going on. To give you a timeline, this was around fall of 2025. So after not being able to figure out what exactly was the problem with my body, I just fell back into my routines. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I know that if I start really, really focusing on me and I just start pouring into my health, my routines, my daily habits, I start doing the things that I know make me feel good, everything else should fall back in place. So that's exactly what I did. I was still traveling a lot. I was traveling back around from California over to Hawaii for a little bit and back to California again. I spent a lot of time with family. I spent a lot of time in the church. And I also spent a lot of time with this company that had just taught me mental and emotional release, hypnosis, neurolinguistics, and really just being able to tap into my unconscious mind in order to overcome anything negative that was holding me back and limiting me from achieving all the things that I wanted to achieve. So much so that I ended ended up getting in touch with the company and they brought me on part-time to support with logistics during trainings. I had never felt so much alignment working with another company, and I had to really humble myself to even take this position because something in my brain was like, you can't work for someone else anymore. You've worked for yourself for so long. You started your own company. What do you mean you're going to go and you're going to work for someone else? Once I took this position with the company, I started traveling all over the country with them. I traveled to Hawaii, to Arlington, Virginia, to Texas, to Florida, to California. I was all over the place. And so with that, I was not taking the most care of my physical body. I was still working with my clients, which has been amazing, and y'all know who you are. I love you guys. So obviously, since my hormonal health was already pretty shit, my physical body didn't feel the way that I wanted to feel. So because doctors in the States couldn't figure it out, I ended up booking a round trip flight to Bali, where I am at currently. And so I had 3 weeks off from the physical trainings. And obviously I'm still working with my clients online. I'm still posting on other platforms besides Instagram regularly. And I took Bali as the intentional time that I was going to work with medicine doctors here and also prioritize my rest and recovery. And that's exactly what I've been doing while I've been here, which has been absolutely incredible. And here's what I will say. So since being here, I did a live blood analysis with a doctor who has been doing blood analyses for over 30 years. And she showed me that I actually had parasites in my blood. So if you're not aware already, parasites can cause so many different issues in your body. And we all have parasites to some degree, but the ones that I had, we don't know exactly which ones they were, but they were more than likely affecting my hormones. They were more than likely impacting my blood flow in my body. And they were also more than likely impacting my actual mental health. And it was causing me to feel a lot more moody. It caused me to feel a lot more tired and just in general groggy. I would say since starting this parasite cleanse, I have had so much more mental clarity. I feel so much more energized, and I've also just been taking so much more care of myself. I've been getting massages often to get the blood flow moving. I've been a lot more intentional with stretching, and I've also been doing saunas, getting sunlight, walking more, and overall things have been so much better. So the plan is, after leaving Bali, to continue to travel with the company, continue to work on the things that I'm building and growing in my business, and also just continue to pour into you all online. What I've realized and what I've found is that community is so important, not just to me, but for us as a human species. And what better way to continue to connect with you all than to just be so vulnerable and so honest and so transparent about what I've been experiencing, about my own journey and all the things that I have been learning. I want to be able to support you all and help you. And I just want to share my experience and see how I can continue to inspire you to take care of yourself and put yourself first. Ultimately, what I've realized the most is that when I put myself first, I can do so much more for others. I have more energy for others. I have more mental clarity to support others. And I'm also able to inspire others better because I put myself first. And I want that for you all too. So those are all my life updates. If this is something that interests you, if you're interested in neuroscience, neurology, linguistics, if you're interested in the physical body, your overall health, all of those things, feel free to follow for more, and I will be taking you along this journey with me. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.